right, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Sip and Style, hosted by TWEEDS St. Pete. Super excited to be joined here by Joe Malinowski. He is somebody who, he's a client of ours who worked with us once on this suit here. And Joe also has a awesome social media presence. He is Mr. Tampa Bay. Needs no other introduction other than that. Welcome to the show, Joe.
Thanks so much for having me, man.
Of course, man. I'm really so curious about your journey. Like, I've seen you long before you ever came into TWEEDS. I've seen your, tastings and a lot of the social content that you've done over the years. How long have you been doing this?
I started the first page in 2013.
2013, okay.
Yeah.
And like, how long did you from there kind of take to start to see some growth?
So it was late 2013 when I launched it, and then it was revenue generating full. I mean, it was probably a year before I started making any money, and then full time in 2016.
Wow. So it only took you a year to start generating some revenue, and only 3 years.
By revenue, it was very piddly.
Yeah. It was start getting some money, but I'm sure it wasn't anything to write home about.
Not at all.
But 2016, you said you were, able to.
That was it. That was this is the business, and growing it out from there, and full time, this was the income.
Yeah. What made you want to do this? What was the inspiring?
So a few variables over a couple of years. One, I was working with restaurants, I was working with e-commerce, I was doing a lot of that stuff already, and then after a point, it's kind of if all of these ideas are so great, why don't you just go do it? And when I say do it, I have a bit philosophy, a theory, a way of building an audience that I find much less expensive, faster, and easier, and it's around concepts. So, you're not following Target. You don't really care what Target's doing. You're following the brand or something that's like an offering, a product. So when you're thinking, and even let's say pasta sauce, for example. You're not following a brand of pasta sauce, but if you follow pasta is awesome because you love pasta, it's so much faster and easier to build these a bit larger, ambiguous ideas and then be able to promote whatever you want to it.
Yeah.
So 2013 started testing that, and I had a ton of stuff. I had golf is awesome, yachts are awesome, bacon is awesome. I mean, craft beer is awesome.
You name it, you had it.
Whatever it was, we had it going on, and then after a point, it was well, what the hell am I going to do with bacon is awesome? We spent $10 and had 10,000 followers, which was awesome.
Yeah.
But then scaling back and looking at, what do I want to do? The only one I didn't keep, I mean, I have it, but we didn't continue to do it, was the yachts are awesome, and that probably would have been tremendously valuable. I know it would have been tremendously valuable. I don't know anything about yachts.
Yeah, but I mean, that is, yachts are awesome. I mean, I think everybody knows that, and it would have been tremendously valuable. How so is that the theory then? Is that your your theory on growing audiences is ultimately something is awesome and kind of running with
whatever
that?
The idea is, whatever the thing you would see and agree with. Where in TWEEDS, you don't know what TWEEDS is. It's just a word. It's a brand, but it's just men's fashion. Men's fashion is awesome. I love men's fashion. Whatever the line is, and I tested out a bunch of them for different places. I like whatever is awesome. But that concept, it's just easier to bring people into the mix, and you're becoming your own. Really, at that time, it wasn't influencer marketing. Right. There wasn't a term yet. But that was really the concept, is becoming your own influencer, become your own third-party validation tool, and then, men's fashion. TWEEDS is the signature sponsor of men's fashion because it's so much faster and easier. And then you can get paid to do your own marketing, because as you have an audience, someone wants to sell a watch, someone wants to sell shoes, whatever all those other variables are, you get to be the one to push it out there, and TWEEDS is always the forefront of it. So it's just, that's just worked in so many industries that I've consulted with and worked for, and really just built it out locally because I was, in my late 20s when I started it. So eating and drinking was pretty awesome. It's still great.
Yeah.
It's still great. But that was like, yeah, if I get paid to eat and drink, this would be pretty cool.
Yeah. How do you stay so slim?
I spend a lot of time at the gym,
Yeah.
running stairs, riding bikes. Like
Okay.
I went to yoga at 6, and I went to the gym at 7:30 this morning, and then the steam room. Like it's like 4-hour day.
Yeah, because I've seen you like take down some big burgers, bro.
I usually don't eat everything that you see on the videos.
Oh,
I'll
I'm
take
sure.
it home, give it to neighbors, whoever.
Yeah.
But sometimes, like if I go to 4-2, there's no leftovers over there, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm sure. So I mean, with that kind of framework, I mean, so one that I noticed that's different is Tampa Luxury.
Yep.
How does that kind of stack up among everything else that you've done in the past? Like, what gave you that kind of transition?
So we would get asked to go do stuff at the nicer restaurants or, country club stuff and this and that, and it'll perform well on the awesome pages, but as far as like it being on brand for them, it's kind of not. And there is such a growing luxury-esque side of things between the developments that are going in and just brands coming to town. We were like, look, we're already shooting all this content. Like, let's do a nicer version of this too.
Yeah.
And focus on that. And we kind of cracked the code a little bit recently with just tapping into some AI stuff with these development renderings that go crazy because they're so cool. So we've taken the renderings that some of these developments are just submitting out there, and then my team just goes and AIs the hell out of it, and it just looks amazing. And then people are that's what's kind of given us a lot of good pops over the last month.
Okay, nice. That's cool. So, like, I would, that does kind of lead me into my next question because I was curious, like, what's ultimately your strategy with coming up with content? Obviously, you have the businesses reach out to you, but ultimately getting content to perform well and creating an audience. Like, if you were at 0 followers today, like, what would you do? Just start shooting content? Would you just start, ultimately guessing, or is there a method to the madness with going viral or having things perform really well?
So I'm about to have 2 new concepts launching at 0, so there will be a very good case study for all of those. But there is absolutely a method to the madness. Headlines are everything. Headlines of the videos and having them on those first 2 or 3 seconds. When you're doing shows like this and putting them in Opus Clip or whatever you're going to do to chop up to get segments out of it. The thing that I think I haven't even seen anybody do it, but they put it in and it spits out the headlines and the clips that they think are going to perform the best, which they will. But if you don't put a headline for the first 3 seconds and get rid of the text that's there, it's not. There's no frame of reference for the video. If there's not a frame of reference when you start a video, it's a waste of time because it's not going to get the traction it can. You have to have that woo. You got to get it past that first 3 seconds, and then your next goal is 7 seconds, and then you're viral. You got to get past those times, or the video is going to just kind of fall flat. And Opus does such a great job giving you those priorities, but with that, making sure to put those headlines on stuff, and starting from 0. I think it's different for every industry. If you were going to start a food thing, I think I don't want to say very easy, but I would go look at tons of pages like mine and others that exist and be like, okay, what were all the places that they went crazy?
Yeah. And
make a punch list because there's probably, I've been recently doing that, like aggregating all of our, viral videos. There's probably 30 to 70 of them where it's like, I would go do all those first.
Yeah.
Go pay for your food, go get your stuff. That's your time investment. That's your money investment. Get good headlines. And you already know people are excited about it. Like, go talk about what's already exciting, and then you can inject the other stuff. But that's in every industry. Find what's working, go put your own spin on it, and get rolling.
Yeah. Do you ever go into like paid ads or anything like that?
100%.
Or boosting posts?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When something does well, I'd spend money on that. Like, if it flops, I'm not going to spend money to get something that's not performing well in front of more people because more people don't care about it then.
Yeah.
If something, gets 200,000, 500,000, 1 million views, or gets us a ton of new followers,
Yeah.
I'm throwing, I mean, and not a lot of money, $5, $10 a day, depending on your audience. I mean, if you're local targeting, that's a good number, but if you have a broader audience, you can go higher than that. But yeah, paid ads are great. And then the cool thing is when you, let's say, have these broad concepts, let's say I do a video for, I do a ton of stuff with the guys at 4.2. I love those guys. And when a video cranks it out there and it goes viral after a couple days, after 2 weeks, then we'll be like, hey man, let's throw a few dollars behind this because it's just gonna keep performing well. And it just always does great.
Yeah, that's awesome. You've been doing this for a little over 10 years. What do you see, where do you kind of see this? Do you see this evolving into anything else? Or are you always going to kind of consistently stay with this, with social media and growing, helping other businesses? Or do you have a vision for something additional?
It's all on big growth mode. We've been shooting for the last month and a half, so we've got 2 shows launching that are going to be YouTube podcasts. Eventually, one of them get pitched to like streaming services. And I become an equity kind of partner within a franchise called Cheeseology that I'm bringing them to market around the country. So really the cool thing, one of the shows is called Beyond the Followers. So it's me hanging out with other influencers, people who are making money because of the social audience they've built and talking about the business, how has it grown, and how does the money actually work?
Yeah.
People think that Instagram's paying us and all these other people are paying us, and like, in some cases, yes, but how does this actually function as a sustainable business? So we've got cool people all over the country and the world that I've been hanging out with and shooting with there. So that's going to be launching in February 2026, and then another one on the hospitality side. So that's getting shot right now as well. So all of these kind of culminate into being promotional tools for Mr. Tampa Bay, which builds audiences here, builds real estate, builds visibility, builds food stuff, and then they're all basically feeding each other. So quite a big web of promotional stuff that's all very in context to what we're already doing every day.
So why do you, this is interesting to me, and this is a curiosity of mine, why do you create so many pages rather than focusing on one?
You mean like the local pages?
Yeah.
Or?
So you seem like you like to dabble. Like you have the Tampa Lux. You have St. Pete is awesome. You mentioned before you had This is awesome. That's awesome.
Well, I don't have any of those other ones anymore.
Ultimately, are you testing different things, or are you?
We've gotten past the testing phase. Now it's just execution. We know what works. Why do I have Tampa Bay is awesome, St. Pete, Dunedin, Clearwater Beach? All of those exist because to have this as a sustainable business and be able to work with enough people, you can't have everybody on one page. If I'm out eating and doing stuff at 3 to 4 places a day, I can't make 4 posts on any one of these pages every day, but I can across 4 pages. So it expands the revenue streams behind all of it. So then I'm still doing the same thing, building relationships all over the counties and being able to work with a lot of cool people in different areas. Mr. Tampa Bay exists because of the real estate component of what we do. So awesome doesn't get overwhelmed with me talking about real estate stuff. That can be on Mr. Tampa Bay. That's the personal brand side of it. That's where the businessy stuff can live. And then luxury was really just a byproduct. Like we already have the content. Why not use it and make it a little bit more elevated there? So when we are doing stuff with some of the, when we do, a showcasing of, 400 Central or Aura or the CW at Clearwater Beach, these like very luxury properties, it just looks nicer on luxury than it does on awesome.
Yeah.
Still use awesome to give it the eyeballs, but the reason for content, which page it goes on is all very intentional. And now with these other shows, it feels as though the last 13 years has been like a natural progression of what to be working on. The Beyond the Followers show, the number of people that we hang out with that ask about this as a business, like podcasts and people out in the streets. There's nowhere to get this information.
Yeah.
We're in a very ambiguous industry because there's no course, there's no class. Right. Everyone's different. I'm hanging out with a friend of mine who has a meditation podcast, and like how, she's doing $1 million a year with a meditation podcast. Like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
Another buddy's doing reviews of golf products and crushing it. Like, all these little niches. What does that business look like? So,
yeah. I guess that brings me to my next question, because I know there's certainly a lot of aspiring, I wouldn't call it necessarily influencers, but aspiring individuals who inspire to do what you do, right? Like, if you were to, give somebody a roadmap, what would step 1 be? What would step 2 be on getting that brand off and running? If somebody has an idea and they want to start doing something similar to what you're doing, but maybe in a different way, right?
I think it's all, depending on whatever the industries are, but I think regardless of it, it's like follow the money. What are these income opportunities that are going to come with whatever it is you're trying to build? I think what I see a lot of is people trying to go out and create this like personal brand, and I don't think it's the fastest, I'm saying the right way. It's not the fastest way to start, because who the hell are you? Like, no one cares about what you're doing.
Right.
Go create something that people do care about. Go build an audience around something that's a niche market, and if you've got the information on it, find out, all right, who are all the people who would potentially pay to get in front of this?
Yeah.
And then you can expand out from there, and then you can launch, your own personal brand. Mr. Tampa Bay only started 2 years ago, where everything else, I was the guy around town.
Yeah.
Now I just gave a little bit of a label to it. So, following the money, I think, is the most important part of, before you're starting any pages.
Yeah, follow the money, where that goes, if it's a business calling you about this or that, go do that, go, shoot that content and, make it awesome for them and really help them. But also I see you you're also a bit of a problem solver, right? Like in a way, like you're helping businesses grow their revenue. Tell me about that side of it.
Tremendously, when I'll go to restaurants, whether they've invited us or we're just going to hang out and check things out. A great example is we went to a friend's place. It's a ramen place, and they're like, "Hey, we're doing this sushi stuff now." And I got there, I was like, "No one cares about this sushi, guys. Like, it's good, but it's not interesting." And I'm just like, "You have small bowls." They're like, "Yeah." I go make me a ramen flight. I'm like, "I can sell a ramen flight," and we did that, and then video blows up. We sell 300 or 400 ramen flights in the next week. You have to understand if you're just someone that's being a service provider, you're helpful to a degree, but when you can go in and be like an indispensable person, they're calling you. Like other businesses will call me and say, "Hey, should I use so and so to come in here and do this? Like, is it the right audience?" Because they don't really know what it is. And it's like, well, their audience is in Tampa, you're in St. Pete Beach. Like, the video will do well, but it's probably not going to generate a whole lot. Understanding to being that kind of consigliere person for businesses is tremendous. Like if there's a style thing that I'm thinking about, like, all right, could I use these shoes with this thing? What shoes should I get? Like, I'm calling you. You're 100%. That resourceful person. So you got to be that. The faster you can get there as a trusted resource, the easier it is.
Who is your influence for all of this? Is there somebody that you saw, you were like, I want to emulate that? Or is it you just kind of came to you and ultimately wanted to do it?
I think it's all just, always reading tons of books and marketing stuff and, how to win friends and influence people and Jeffrey Gitomer things and the sales Bibles and all that stuff is how I kind of came up through my 20s. I think the few little components that kind of sparked the whole like local focused was in 2011, I was hanging out with a guy and he was in Wesley Chapel, which in 2011, Wesley Chapel was like nothing. It was Wiregrass, didn't even exist yet.
Yeah.
And he's like, "I'm a realtor. How do I like take over Wesley Chapel?" I'm just like, "Be the guy. Like, just go create a page about Wesley Chapel and talk about anything that's going on."
Yeah.
And there's nothing, so you got a really easy job. And he's just like, "That sounds like a lot of work." I'm like, "Well, what do you want me to do, bro? It's not like a little poof."
It's not a magic pill.
Yeah.
You got to go put the work in.
You got to go out there and grind, man. Like, we're always, not to say we're always in grind mode. We definitely chill out a lot. But that was the first, like, little just seed that kind of got planted in my head. And then a few years later, I went to a meeting in Ybor City, and there was the development council thing that they had there. And it was the first meeting I go to, and it's a budget meeting. And they're going through this huge packet of stuff that like this company that they had that they had a contract with, all the things that they did. And it was $180,000. And they're going through it, and one of the pages is like, we got 120 new followers on Facebook. And like they just kind of kept going. And I was like, it's looking around, I was like, is nobody gonna say this is ridiculous? And then they're just like patting themselves on the back. I was like, this is bullshit. I'm like, maybe I should get into destination marketing because these people have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
But I was like, is that contract work interesting? You know, back then it was. I never pursued or got into any of them. And, I have actually done a few. But that was another thing of like, okay, cool. There's plenty of opportunity to do stuff with these regions. And I'd been in all of the different chambers. Like I knew what obstacles, Dunedin was having and Tarpon was having and Safety Harbor and Gulfport and Ybor City and downtown Tampa. Like I knew the intricacies of what promotional things were happening. I'm just like, let me just go do it the way I want to do it and then figure out how it'll work later.
Yeah.
Once you start doing stuff with all these places, everyone's got an opinion. And I'm not a fan of opinions from people who aren't qualified to give me opinions.
100%. Yeah. So you saw the problem and you went and solved it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. And that's so valuable. Problem solvers will get paid a lot of money. If you can see a big problem that solves an issue for a lot of people, you can make a lot of money doing that. If you solve a problem for a few people, you make a little money doing that. But
I think it was an Elon Musk quote. I'm not quite sure. I think I might have gotten it from the book, but you're compensated in direct proportion to the complexity of the problems that you solve.
Yep. No, facts. So true.
Like, perfect.
Let me ask you this. Before we wrap up, what book, what would be one book you would recommend to the audience?
So, the first book that was like the light switches flipping when I was probably 22 was, Think and Grow Rich.
Great.
Awesome book. And then, look, I'm a big proponent of Goggins' stuff. He's not for everybody, but both of his books, it just removes excuses of any area of your life. Those two. The Code of the Extraordinary Mind, another fantastic book. There's so many, but depends where you're starting.
Those would be your top four.
Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah.
If you're getting into the business world, it's solid.
Yeah, it's a good place to start. Okay, well, one last question and then we'll wrap up. Why do you dress up? When you do, why do you dress up?
Why do I dress up? Boy, oh boy. When we're gonna go do something nice, as far as any shooting, luxury stuff that we're doing, when we have to go to a gala. I love I have two uniforms. This is the nice uniform, and then the shirt and the khaki shorts or pants is the other uniform. And one of the reasons why I dig it is because it gives me universality with videos.
Yeah.
If I was eating at whatever place and I've been there 3 times and I'm wearing the same thing every time, I can chop videos together.
Yeah.
And it's seamless. So that uniform-esqueness is critical for me. But yeah, just really when we're doing nice stuff. It's beautiful when it's cooler weather out, so I can toss this on and be a little bit sharper with I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but check out the decked outness, Miss Tempe on the cuffs.
Mr. Tempe on the cuffs. 100%.
In there somewhere.
Yep.
Looking, and look, you can't help it. I get compliments on it every time I put it on, so I love it.
Yeah, so pulling behind, just pulling that back just a little bit more when you do go to a luxury event or a luxury thing, why do you think people do that? Why do you do that and for your content?
No.
No, why do you do that for?
Why
your
do
content?
I go to the events?
Yeah, no. Why do you do that for your content when you're ultimately shooting a piece that this is the fancy uniform, right? Why is that?
So I am typically not an events person. It's if I'm at the event, I'm there before the event to hype up the event. So that would be all right, let's go to Motor Enclave, and if cool, we're gonna do that, or we're gonna show up a cool car. Let's be in character for that.
Okay.
You know, so it's really like, when is the luxury character needed?
Yep.
That's really when it comes to fruition, I think.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Well, sweet. That's going to do it for today's episode of Sip and Style. Let's cheers to another awesome episode of Sip and Style.
Cheers.
Cheers, everyone.